forming bracket.
What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my continuation of the road to ranking every single Best Picture winner, all 93 as of March 2021. Now, this is, of course, something that I've been looking forward to doing for quite some time now. With part 3, I've already done part 1 and 2. So this part 3 is number 50 to number 26. Now, if you guys want an in-depth, obviously, explanation for each one, I will obviously be saying, hey, watch my other ranking videos, because I've ranked the Best Picture winners per each one per decade. And with the each per decade one, I've obviously gone more in depth. But this one is just simply trying to go by real fast, just because, well, wouldn't want it to be an hour-long video. But anyways, enough exposition, guys. Let's kick things off with number 50. And then obviously the last entry will be number 26. But number 50 is Ben-Hur, which I really do need to rewatch. I remember enjoying quite a bit. It's long. That's one of the reasons why I just haven't revisited it. But I remember enjoying it. And I mean, it's very beautiful. That's why it's number 50. Number 49 is Braveheart. This movie, upon second viewing, I didn't like it quite as much, but I do still enjoy this movie quite a bit. It's very flawed, but it's still quite enjoyable, and it is definitely pretty good in terms of filmmaking, especially that score and cinematography. So that's my number 49. Number 48 is Gone with the Wind, which, yeah, it hasn't really aged too well in the fact that it's jerked off the South pretty much throughout the years. Well, from the beginning of when you first see the movie, you realize that. But it also is quite a, well, racist movie. It just hasn't aged too well in those regards. But in terms of filmmaking, I like it. But, yeah, it's a little bit higher up on this list simply because I do respect with what it did in terms of filmmaking. It was one of those first long movies. I mean, for crying out loud, the movie is 4 hours long, but it's one of those first epics of Hollywood, and it ends up, I mean, heck, inspiring movies like Braveheart and a couple other epics on this list, obviously Ben-Hur as well. But I mean, you know, for that I do have to give it props and obviously respect. Next up, number 47 is well, let's just face it, the movie that I feel like a lot of people are towards the same way that a lot of people are towards Boomer Gump, otherwise known as Forrest Gump. And next up, number 47 is Green Book. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy this movie. That's why I own it on 4K. It is flawed for sure, and it should not have won Best Picture in the slightest, but I do quite enjoy this movie. I think it's hilarious. It's simple, but again, the filmmaking is pretty darn good. The chemistry between the two is awesome. I enjoy this movie thoroughly. I do not think it's one of the worst Best Picture winners. Obviously, I've seen all 93. I do not think that's even close to being one of the worst. It's just not the best movie of 2018, but it is one of the most enjoyable of 2018, I will say. But yeah, so that's my number 47. Next up, number 46 is Rebecca. Not the new one. This is the 1940s one. And this one I've only seen one time. But it stuck with me. It stuck with me because it's a gothic romance mystery. And it's an intriguing one, to say the least. Definitely one of Hitchcock's best ones in terms of filmography. But yeah, definitely recommend it. That's why it's my number 46. Next up, number 45 is Rocky. I like this film. I like it quite a bit, actually. It's definitely probably the best in the series, with maybe Creed rivaling it. But that's just my personal opinion. Next up, number 44 is Slumdog Millionaire. This movie dropped in quality a lot for me upon rewatch. I still respect it. I think it's solid filmmaking. I just, this time around, wasn't a big fan of the editing style, which is something that, again, it's definitely personal taste, especially considering it won Best Editing at the Oscars. But I just think that this movie, although crowd-pleasing and enjoyable, I do think that it is a bit slight upon rewatch. But I still respect it. Obviously, that's why I own it. Next up, number 43 is The Last Emperor, which a bit too long, but at the same time, it is so beautiful to look at. It is so interesting in terms of the historical aspects to it as well. I like this movie quite a bit, actually. I definitely want to give it a second chance. And it's on Criterion, so I might pick it up one of these times. Who knows? But yeah, that's my number 43. Next up, my number 42 is The Sound of Music, which I grew up watching this movie. I've seen it quite a bit. And I haven't seen it recently, but I do like this movie. I think it's long. Obviously, it's one of those epic musicals. But it's got good performances. It isn't, you know, in terms of pacing, it isn't too slow. It's got catchy musical numbers. So, you know, it's enjoyable. I'd say give it a watch. So that's my number 42. Next up, number 41 is The Deer Hunter, which a friend of mine actually sold this to me when the pandemic, right before the pandemic started. So I need to rewatch this movie. I've only seen it one time, but it's stuck with me because of the filmography. Not the filmography, the filmmaking, because the filmmaking is broken up obviously into three act structure. Both each act, it's different. You have the first act where it's very slow, and you're kind of like, why is this so slow? And you realize it's to show the mundane nature of obviously these characters and their jobs. And then the second act, it's obviously Vietnam, so it's very high paced and everything. It's very stressful. And then the third act, it's coming to terms with everything that happened. It's not a perfect movie. It's definitely too long, but performances and filmmaking wise, I respect it. That's why it's higher up on the list. So that's my number 41. Next up, number 40 is Dances with Wolves. I have not seen the extended cut. I've only seen the theatrical. And even upon second viewing, I like this film. I do like it. It's not my favorite Western by any means, but I do like this movie quite a bit. And I think that Kevin Costner's heart was in the right place. And I mean, it inspired The Last Samurai and Avatar, so there's that. So yeah, that's my number 40. Next up, number 39 is Terms of Endearment. This is a good film. I was surprised by the ending. I want to give it a second viewing. It's good. It's good. Next up, number 38 is In the Heat of the Night, which it's another mystery film on this list. The Academy Awards seem to like mystery films, and I'm glad because this was an interesting mystery. I've seen it a couple times. Definitely one of the better 1960s films. It's not really quite as progressive as other 60s films that are some of my all-time favorites, but it's definitely a good film, and it's definitely a time capsule. I don't think it should have won Best Picture, but it was still a good film. And that's my number 38. Next up, number 37 is Annie Hall, which this was a good film. Woody Allen did a really good job directing it. The chemistry was very palpable on screen with him and Diane Keaton. This was a good film. I like it. Next up is number 36, which is The Hurt Locker, which as of the filming of this video, I've heard rumors that it's going to be on 4K. If it is, I'll definitely be picking it up because I feel like this would be a really good-looking 4K. I own Catherine Bigelow's other film, Zero Dark 30, in 4K, and that looks amazing in 4K. So I can only imagine what this movie would look like in 4K. This film had, I think 100 hours of footage that they filmed, and they diced it down to a 2-hour movie. That's quite impressive. I know that there's a lot of movies where that's the case, but if you've seen the filmmaking style of Catherine Bigelow with this movie, you'll be like, holy cow, this movie easily could have been a mess, but instead it's very cohesive, tightly paced, and very interesting. I like The Hurt Locker. That's why it's number 36. Next up, 35 is Platoon. This is one of the war films of the 1980s that, is very saddening, very somber, but it works very well. It works very well, especially those performances. Obviously, it was parodied in Tropic Thunder to, obviously positive effects, but this film itself is good. I would definitely recommend it. Next up, number 34 is Rain Man. Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman, man. Need I say more? They are really good together, and the film itself definitely is rewatchable because of their chemistry, first and foremost. Next up is 33, which 33 is A Beautiful Mind. Look, I know that watching it now, it's probably looked at as conventional, but I feel like this is one of the first biopic films where it actually kind of set the standard for it, and honestly, it was quite unpredictable in that first half. Even to this day, rewatching it more recently, I still really dig this movie. It definitely saw more of the flaws this time around, but I still really dig this movie. And I think Russell Crowe was not snubbed. Obviously, he was nominated, but I think he was robbed of Best Actor because he did such a great job in this movie, man. I mean, holy cow. So that's my number 33. Number 32 is Casablanca, which haven't seen in 10 years, but I still to this day remember it, and I'm looking forward to rewatching it. It's a good film, very quotable, very well shot, well directed. I'm looking forward to giving it another watch. That's number 32. Number 31 is The Bridge on the River Kwai. This is a movie that kind of similar to Casablanca. I've only seen once. It's been quite a while, but it's ingrained in my mind, man. I really dug this movie when I saw it. I remember when I saw it, I thought it was a little too slow, but I thought the pacing-wise, although slow, led to a very honestly satisfying conclusion. And to this day, I still remember it. It's a good film. Definitely need to rewatch it, but it's higher up on this list because, again, I really remember it, man. It stuck with me. So that's my number 31. Number 30 is Titanic. Look, I know that this movie is pretty divisive these days, but I was actually one of the people that didn't like this movie. If you watch my review on the channel, I was very conflicted. I gave it a positive rating of like a 3.5 out of 5. But overall, my tone was more negative and more mixed. Upon rewatch, and actually 2 rewatches, I actually like this movie quite a bit. I do think that it can be kind of off-putting for some people with, for one reason or another. But in terms of the filmmaking, I absolutely love this film. I like the performances. Kate Winslet especially did such a great job. And although, again, some of it does, steep into melodrama, I do think that it works very well. And in terms of visual effects, I mean, holy cow, they hold up very, very well. This movie is, it's really good. What can I say? Should it have won Best Picture over LA Confidential and Boogie Nights, which wasn't even nominated? No. But it's still a good film. Next up, this is going to be very controversial, so I can't wait to say it. Next up, number 29 is Shakespeare in Love. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that hate this movie, kind of like Green Book, and kind of like Crash, but you know what? Kind of like all those movies. I feel like a lot of people that say they're the worst Best Picture winners, kind of like those movies, I feel like those people that say that just haven't seen every Best Picture winner. Like, holy cow, they're not bad. Like, Shakespeare in Love should have won Best Picture. No, it should not have. But it is enjoyable. I do think this movie is very well written. I think that the dialogue itself, I enjoyed. I enjoyed the chemistry between the leads. I also love the score. Like, I know some people don't, but I really dig the score. It's very memorable. I enjoy Shakespeare in Love. Screw it. So that's obviously my number 29. Next up, number 28 is The French Connection. Has one of the best car chases ever, and obviously was a very intriguing police procedural drama. Need I say more? I want to rewatch this movie ASAP. This was a good film. Next up, number 27 is All About Eve. Haven't seen this movie in quite a while. I remember I saw this movie and Sunset Boulevard around the same time because they both were, at each other's throats in terms of Best Picture, both being nominated for such. This is coming out on top. Sunset Boulevard, I love more, for sure. But I do want to rewatch All About Eve because I know it's been quite some time, so I want to kind of watch it now without the mindset of like, oh, Sunset Boulevard should have won. But All About Eve is good. I remember liking it, and I can't wait to watch it. I got it on Criterion recently, so looking to rewatch it. Yeah. Next up, number 26 is It Happened One Night. This movie is very well made. It's one of the best romantic comedies. Actually, heck, it probably set the standard for such. That's a movie I don't have on Criterion yet, but I am looking forward to getting it on Criterion. It's very well made. Definitely recommend it. But that's number 26. So that's the end of my list. Stay tuned for, obviously, part 4, which will be number 25 to 1. Stay tuned for that. And as always, I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on not only my video, as well as my list, but also your list down below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget the subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.